What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it's finally a time again to get back on some kind of a schedule. We did Moon Knight before, and of course we had all the other shows we've done, especially Star Trek ones. But now it's time for She-Hulk, Episode 1. Here we go. Wow. Well, I loved this show, which I don't know if that really should go without saying because I'm kind of a shill for these things, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, the show is, as a comic book fan and a fan of She-Hulk, it is everything I've ever wanted it to be. The show dove right in. You got right into it. People have made comparisons to Ally McBeal. I know the creator of the show, or the head writer, executive producer, Jessica Gao, has said that that wasn't even really in her mind at the time, and that's fine. Those of you who weren't around in the 90s, back in the day when Ally McBeal was a thing, it was fun, it was poppy, it jumped off, and it had all these little quirky things about it, and they broke the fourth wall. So, out the gate, the show starts literally with Jennifer practicing a closing argument for a case of some kind, and you get to meet the legal assistant, and you get to also meet one of the other attorneys. He's a little bit slimy. I think he's really just there kind of to be misogyny bait, and that's totally fine. Whatever. I don't like him. I don't think I'm supposed to like him. Your mileage may vary. I love how as soon as she's like, oh yeah, no, I'll see you right back in a second, and she comes right back in, and she's talking straight to the camera, and she's like, hey, so this whole thing, I know you're not gonna be able to get to the lawyering because of all the other stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay it out for you. And then we get to see the backstory, which is essentially the one thing I really love that Marvel does really well is Marvel can take an origin story, and they've learned the perfect mix or combination of how to get that origin story out to us as quickly as possible. Where back in the day, if you remember some of the original Spider-Man movies, like the Sam Raimi ones and whatnot, and then later on Amazing Spider-Man, half the movie was origin story until you finally got going and the whole thing. So that's usually what you expect. You expect this whole first episode to be the origin story. It's not. The episode's 37 minutes long-ish, and it's really, it never felt long. I liked it. I thought all the acting was okay. I like what Tatiana Maslany's doing. I feel like some of the other actors around her are a little stiff. Again, I thought smarmy lawyer guy was a little too on the nose in terms of what they're trying to portray with him. But by too on the nose, I mean there's caricature and then there's commentary. He was caricature. So, but still, we as comic book fans come to the fact that these stories are going to be never exactly what they were in the comic books. Now, they've never really established the character of Jennifer Walters. You have no clue that Bruce has a cousin, and I kind of think it was like that in the comics, to be fair. So when you don't get much of an introduction, you're just sort of slammed into a car with the two of them having a conversation. It's very, very domestic in terms of like, this is a family discussion, and they're just like, oh, how you been, blah, 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 this and that. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm doing this thing. So we also, we get our very first explanation about how Bruce's arm grew back, which I think is awesome. And apparently he built this thing that's on his wrist. It keeps him in human form. When he's in human form, his arm heals the way anybody else's arm in rehab would heal. So it went from being a little tiny to suddenly having muscles and the whole bit and all. And then when he eventually transforms back into Hulk, Professor Hulk, Smart Hulk, she makes a joke. She's like, Smug Hulk. I mean, it's really funny. Anyway, but yeah, so after the whole car accident thing, we get this one shot where Tatiana Maslany ends up in a bar, and she goes in the back, and some women help her in the bathroom, and then she's outside, and of course, you know, the slimy, smarmy bar patron guys and she hulks out, and then something grabs her before she can attack them or hurt them, and turn in front out it's Bruce. So they end up on a tropical island. As soon as I saw it, I literally typed the words, "Did Tony Stark buy Bruce an isolation island?" Exclamation point. Yeah, man, no. So then they go through this whole thing, and I need everybody to understand, She-Hulk is not a Mary Sue, okay? Anyone who's read or any of the original She-Hulk books, anybody who the John Byrne run, anyone, Dan Slott's run, when She-Hulk, that's always been sort of one of the Bruce Banner, Jennifer Walters, back and forth, not pet peeves, but like they pick at each other, is she's never had that issue. She doesn't have an alter ego. She's literally Jennifer Walters who can become green and larger. Now, in the comic books later on, you learn that there's reasons you have to like go to a certain level of radiation and whatnot to get to that Hulk level, and she can unlock that in the future, and that's a thing. That's a thing in the comic books. Anyway, but in the show so far, I like what they did, which is there was a car accident. Bruce's blood got mingled with hers. In the comics, it was actually a blood transfusion. But either way, it was very interesting to see kind of where they went with this thing. But Bruce has this binder, and it comprises the 15 years of his life that he was trying to get and learn how to get everything under control. You also find out that during the blip, Tony and him both worked together to get the Hulk and Bruce combined. So that was cool to know that there's a legacy. And there's several points, like he has a little tiki bar, and on the bar is engraved BB and TS, and it's like, you know, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner. And so you learn that Tony basically gave him this island, which is awesome. But yeah, so Jennifer. There's the montages you've seen, which is where he does the little air horn and some other things, trying to teach her how to do stuff. Come to find out, she's actually pretty good at it. So she finally gets him to understand that, hey, I got to go back. I got to go back to my life. This is not my life. And he's trying to convince her, well, you got to be a superhero and this and that. And she's like, well, I don't want to be a superhero. We forget that some of these people who stumble upon powers and things like that may not want them. So, but. Anyways, the court there, she's about to give her closing argument, and then Titania, for whatever reason, comes bursting into the court. I'm sure we're gonna find out why. And so Jen's legal assistant's like, "You gotta do the thing. You gotta." And she's like, "Oh, I like this outfit. Very, very cool." And she takes her shoes off, which is dope. She turns into the She-Hulk, and she knocks her out. And they have this dope scene. Baby Know-It-All was lying on the sofa watching with me, and she goes, "Queen," because you see Jen's feet green, and then they become human color, and then she steps into her shoes. Dopest move ever. And she's like, "I'm ready to finish my closing statements." And you're like, "Oh, well, clearly, I like where this is going." They spent the time making this episode be what it is. Not all the acting is the best in every moment, but I get it, and I like it. Funny enough, there's this part where Jen is essentially trying to explain to Bruce, "Listen, I know how to control. I know how to stay in control. I know how to control my anger. Okay, I control my anger when I'm being catcalled. I control my anger when someone else does a thing or mansplains, blah blah blah, all this stuff." And anybody else would be like, "Oh no, they're wokeifying the show." Look. That's real life. I mean, I know that I have several female friends of mine who, those are all very real things, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay showing that she's like this. I don't believe she's a Mary Sue. It's very true to the comic books. There you go. Now you know, and if knowing is half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. So what is the know-it-all index for this week? The know-it-all index for She-Hulk Episode 1, for me... Not all the acting is great. I'm still on the fence about the She-Hulk CGI. Now, I don't mean the Tatiana Maslany on the face and stuff, because I feel like we're seeing the same level of detail between Bruce and her, but her hair feels fake and it looks weird. There's an uncanny valley with her hair and a couple other things. Overall, I'm very happy with the show. I'm going to give the first episode an 8 out of 10. I think I'm here for it. I think it's great. I can't wait to see next week. Comment below. Let me know what you thought about the episode. If you're excited for the show, if you have criticism about the show. Also, FYI, this is not a wokeified female version of the Hulk. This character's been around for literally 50 plus years. Just saying. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the show. I can't wait to talk to you next week about it. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.